Assalamu alaikum and welcome. Let's continue the text of Mourning becomes Electra, Homecoming, and it's part three that we are discussing now, like part three of Homecoming. So earlier two videos contain whatever has happened before. Now we are talking from where Peter is ashamed to see Christine when he was talking to Lavinia, and uh, from here we are continuing the text. Christine, ah, here you are at last. Then she sees Peter, who is visibly embarrassed by her presence. So, उसको देख के embarrassed हो जाता है. Why, good afternoon, Peter. I didn't see you at first. Peter, good afternoon, Mrs. Manan. I was just passing and dropped in for a second. I guess I better run along now, Winnie. Lavinia, with an obvious eagerness to get him off quickly. All right, goodbye, Peter. So she wanted him go. She did not want him to stay. Peter, goodbye, goodbye, Mrs. Manon. Christine, goodbye, Peter. He disappears from the drive left. Christine comes forward. I must say you treat your one devoted swain pretty rudely. Lavinia doesn't reply. Christine goes on coolly. I was wondering when I was going to see you. When I returned from the New York last night, you seem to have gone to bed. So I wanted to see you, but when I came from New York last night, you had already gone to bed. You had already slept. Lavinia, I had gone to bed. Christine, you usually read long after that. I tried your door, but you had locked yourself in. When you kept yourself locked in all day, I was sure you were intentionally avoiding me. But Annie said you had a headache. While she has been speaking, she has come toward Lavinia until she is now within an arm's reach of her. The facial resemblance at this stand there is extraordinary. Christine stares at her coolly, but one senses an uneasy weariness beneath her pose. Did you have a headache? कि मुझे मुलाजमा ने बताया कि तुम्हारे सर में दर्द है और तुमने अपने आप को सारा दिन बंद कर ही रखा कमरे में. तो क्या वाकई दर्द था या तुम मुझे अवॉइड कर रही थी? Levinian, no. I wanted to be alone, to think over things. कि कुछ मैं चीजों को sort out कर सकूं. Christine, what things, if I may ask? Then, as if she were afraid of an answer to this question, she abruptly changes the topic. तो वो पहले पूछने लगती है और फिर दोबारा खुद ही टॉपिक चेंज कर देती है क्योंकि वो उसका जो क्वेश्चन है उसका आंसर सुनना नहीं चाह रही. Who are those people I saw wandering about the ground? ये कौन लोग थे जो कि हमारे घर में घूम फिर रहे थे? Some friends of Seth's. Oh, because you know that lazy old sort, does it give them privilege of trespassing? Lavinia, I gave Seth permission to show them around. वो trespassing नहीं की उन्होंने, मैंने खुद उन्हें permission दी. And since when have you the right without consulting me? और कब से तुम्हारी हिम्मत हो गई कि मेरी इजाजत के बगैर तुम किसी को इजाजत दे दो? I couldn't very well consult you when Seth asked me. You had gone to New York. She pauses for a second, then adds slowly, staring fixedly at her mother. So वो जानबूझ के यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा पॉज लेती है माँ को जज करने के लिए. To see grandfather. तो इसके बीच में जो ब्रेक लेती है, that obviously says a lot. Between the lines उसने बड़ा कुछ कह दिया. Is he feeling any better? He seems to have been sick so much this past year. कैसी तबीयत है उनकी? ये पिछले साल तो वो काफी बीमार रहे हैं क्योंकि डेफिनेटली उसके नाम पे वो वहां पे जाती रही है. Christine casually avoiding her eyes. Yes, he's much better now. He will soon be going to the rounds to his patient again, he hopes. As if anxious to change the topic, looking at the flowers she carries. I've been to greenhouse to pick these. I felt our tomb need needed a little brightening. So this is what she's calling her house a tomb, yani hamara maqbara. So this is not a well phrase to call or address a house. She notes conflict towards the house. उसके दिल उसके सामने एक नफरत सी आती है उस घर को देखे. Each time I come back after being away, it appears more like a sculpture. और जब मैं इससे कुछ अर्सा दूर रह के वापस आती हूँ, जैसा न्यूयॉर्क गई थी, तो वापसी पे मुझे ये बिल्डिंग एक मकबरे की तरह, एक कब्र की तरह नजर आती है. The whited one of the Bible pagan temple front struck like a mask on Puritan grey ugliness. ये ऐसा लगता है कि प्यूरिटन के जो अगलीनेस थी उसके ऊपर एक मास्क सा चढ़ा हुआ है. सो इस क्रिस्टीन को भी इस बिल्डिंग के अंदर एक मास्क नजर आता है. It was just like old Manan to build such a monstrosity. So monstrosity means एक बड़ी सी building as a temple for his hatred. और ये उसने क्यों बनाया? ये एक टेम्पल बनाया उसने अपनी नफरत का. Then with a little mocking laugh. Forgive me, Vinny, I forgot you liked it. And you ought to. It suits your temperament. Lavinia stares at her but remains silent. Christine glances at the flowers again and turns toward the house. I must put these in water. She moves a few steps towards the house and turns again with a studied casualness. By the way, before I forget, I happened to run into Captain Brant on the street of New York. He said he was coming up here today to take over his ship and asked me if I might drop in to see you. I told him he could and stay to supper with us. Without looking at Lavinia, who's staring at her with a face grown grim and hard. Doesn't that please you, Winnie? Or do you remain true to your one and only beau, Peter? कि रास्ते में मुझे ब्रांट मिल गया एंड आई इनवाइटेड हिम. उसने मुझे ये भी बताया कि वो आएगा अपने शिप को लेने के लिए, तो यहाँ पे चूंकि उसने आना था तो मैंने उसे खाने के लिए इनवाइट किया, अपने घर पे बुलाया ताकि वो उसे मौका मिल सके तुमसे मिलने का. तो लवीनिया को ये सुनकर बड़ा गुस्सा आता है, उसके एक्सप्रेशंस बदल जाते हैं. तो उसको नोटिस करते हुए वो कहती है कि तुम खुश नहीं हुई या तुम अपने जो लवर पीटर के साथ ही खुश हो. हालांकि उससे पीटर में कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. Lavinia, is that why you picked the flowers? Because he's coming? तो उल्टा उस पे एक तरह से अलर्ज कर रही है. अच्छा तो तुम इसलिए ये फूल तोड़ने गई थी कि वो आ रहा है. Her mother does not answer. She goes on with a threatening undercurrent in her voice. You have heard the news, I suppose. It means father will be home soon. ये तुम्हें खबर तो मिल ही गई होगी. ये बड़ी थ्रेटनिंग आवाज में कहती है. तुम्हें तो खबर मिल ही गई होगी. आ रहा है प्यो, बताता है तुम्हें. Christine, without looking at her coolly, we have had so many rumors lately. This report hasn't been confirmed, has it? I haven't heard the fort firing a salute. कि प्रॉपर जंग की एंडिंग का विक्ट्री का वो जो सैल्यूट गन फायर से होता है, तोपों की सलामी से, वो नहीं हुआ. और रूमर्स तो वैसे भी काफी. You will before long. जल्दी तुम सुन लोगी. I'm sure I hope as much as you. और मुझे भी इतनी उम्मीद है जितनी तुम कर रही हो. You can say that. Christine, concealing her alarm coldly. What do you mean? You will kindly not take me that tone with me, please, cuttingly. If you're determined to quarrel, let us go into the house. We might be overheard out here. She turns and sees Sat has just come to the corner of the house left and is standing there watching them. See, there is your old crony doing his best to listen now. Move to the steps. Moving to the steps. I'm going in and rest a while. She walks up the steps. Lavinia, harshly. I've got to have a talk with you, mother, before long. इससे पहले तुम सो जाओ या देर हो जाए. We need to talk. Christine, turning defiantly. Whatever you wish. Tonight after the captain leaves you if you like. But what is it you want to talk about? चलो जब आज कैप्टन मिलके चला जाएगा ब्रांट तुमको, तो फिर बात कर लेंगे. लेकिन क्या बात करना चाहती हो? यू विल नो सून इनफ, जल्दी पता लग जाएगा, तेरी ऐसी तैसी. Christine, staring at her with a questioning dread forcing a scornful smile. You always make such mystery of things, Winnie. She goes into the house and closes the door behind her. Seth comes forward from where he had withdrawn round the corner of the house. Lavinia makes a motion for him to follow her and goes and sits on the bench at left. A pause. She stares straight ahead, her face frozen, her eyes hard. He regards her understandingly. Lavinia, abruptly. Well, what is it about Captain Brent you want to warn me against? Then as
Excuse
if,
me, sir.
G,
Sir, eyes are being discussed here again and again. What do they symbolize?
uh, in which line?
Sir, above when now like they are saying her eyes are frozen and
हाँ, ठीक है. आइज हार्ड, इसमें आइज हार्ड मतलब कि वो उसने आइज फिक्स की हुई है एक जगह पे, उसका फेस फ्रोजन है कि उसका माइंड इस वक्त फुल टाइम टेंशन में है अपनी माँ के करतूत को लेके. सो उसे समझ नहीं आ रही मैं क्या करूं. ऊपर से अब जो ये उसे बात बताने जा रहा है वो भी मैं उसको लगता है कि ये बात उस पर हर्ट करेगी, काफी अटैक करेगी, इसलिए उसने बड़ी फिक्स आंखें उसकी हुई हुई है.
okay, sir, thank you.
She must defend her question from some suspicion that she knows in his mind. I want to know all I can about him because he seems to be calling to court me. मुझे सब कुछ पता होना चाहिए उसके बारे में क्योंकि apparently वो मुझे मिलने के लिए यहाँ पे आता है. Seth, managing to convey his entire belief of this statement in one word. A. Lavinia sharply. You say that as if you didn't believe me. I believe anything you tell me to believe. I ain't been that man's for 6 years without learning that. A pause. Then he asked slowly, ain't you noticed this brand reminds you of someone in looks? कि तुम्हें नहीं लगता कि ब्रांड किसी की याद दिलाता है, इसकी शक्ल किसी से मिलती है? Lavinia, struck by this. Yes, I have ever since I first saw him, but I've never been able to place who. Who do you mean? मुझे आज तक नहीं पता लग सका कि किससे शक्ल मिलती है, लेकिन मिलती जरूर है. तुम किससे यानी किसके बारे में कह रहे हो? Your paw, ain't it, Winnie? तुम्हारे फादर से. Startled agitatedly. Father? No, it can't be. Then, as if the conviction were forcing itself on her in spite of herself. Yes, he does something about his face. That must be why I've had the strange feeling I've known him before. Why I've felt. Then, tensely, as if she were about to break down. Oh, I won't believe it. You must be mistaken, Seth. That would be too obvious in a way. अब बेसिकली मामला क्या है, क्योंकि इलेक्ट्रा कॉम्प्लेक्स है, सो लेविनिया लव्स हर फादर. सो व्हेन शी लव्स हर फादर, और एडम ब्रांड के अंदर अगर उसके बाप का लुक नजर आता है, सो ऑफ कोर्स शी हैज एन अनकॉन्शियस इन्वॉल्वमेंट टुवर्ड्स ब्रांड टू. Seth, he ain't only like your pa, he's like Orin too, and all the menons I have known. सिर्फ तुम्हारे बाप से नहीं बल्कि तुम्हारे भाई से और सब मैनन से जिनको मैं जानता हूँ. Frightenedly, but why should he? लेकिन क्यों, ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? More specially, she calls to my mind your grandpa's brother, David. How much do you know about David Bannon, Vinny? I know his name's never been allowed to be spoke among Manon since the day he left, but you have likely heard gossip, ain't you? Even if it all happened before you were born. कि मेनन, डेविड मेनन से इसकी शक्ल ज्यादा मिलती है. अब तो उसका नाम भी इस घर में कोई लेना पसंद नहीं करता, लेकिन he takes after him a lot. Lavinia, I've heard that he loved the Kanak nurse girl who was taking care of father's little sister who died and had to marry her because she was going to have a baby. And grandfather put them both off the house and then afterwards tore it down and built this one because he wouldn't live where his brother had disgraced the family. But what has that old scandal got to do with Adam Brandt? कि डेविड मैनन जो था वो उसकी सिस्टर के लिए नर्स थी और वो टेक केयर करने आती थी उसकी बहन की, लेकिन उसकी वो टेक केयर कर रही थी डेविड की, डेविड ने भी उसकी अच्छी टेक केयर की फिर, एंड देन दे बोथ लेफ्ट द हाउस। तो उस शेम को बचाने के लिए इन दोनों को निकाल भी दिया गया और उस घर को भी गिरा दिया गया और उस घर को नया बनाया एबे मेनन ने, ताकि ये शेम धुल जाए। इसलिए कहते हैं घर पे मास्क चढ़ा हुआ है, क्योंकि ये घर कुछ छुपा रहा है अपने अंदर। Seth, wait. Right after they were thrown out, they married and went away. There was talk they'd gone out west, but no one knew nothing about them afterwards. Except your grandpa let out to me one time she had had a baby, a boy. He was cussing it. Then, impressive. It's about a baby, I've been thinking, Vinny. कि तुम्हारे दादा ने यानी अबे मैंने ने एक दफा बताया कि उसका बेटा हुआ है, वो कर्स कर रहा था उसे उसे डिस्कस कर रहा था। एंड आफ्टरवर्ड्स मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि उस बेटे का क्या बना, कौन था वो बेटा। Lavinia, a look of appalled comprehension growing in on her face. Oh, Seth, how fool is that? How old is that Brent, Vinny? 36, I think. That would make it right. And there's another funny thing. His name, Brent sort of queer for a name. कि ब्रांड यहाँ पे किसी का नाम होता नहीं है, सेकंड नेम या सर नेम। आई ain't never heard tell of it before. Sounds made up to me. ये मुझे लगता है कि ये नाम बनाया गया है जबरदस्ती। ये आम लोगों का यहाँ पे नॉर्मली नाम नहीं होता, लाइक शॉर्ट फॉर समथिंग एल्स, और लगता है किसी नाम को शॉर्ट किया गया। Remember what that character's name was, do you, Vinny? Mary Brantome. See what I'm driving at? तुम्हें समझ आ रही मैं क्या कह रहा हूं? तो इसने शायद उस ब्रेंटमी अपनी मां के पीछे उस नाम को शॉर्ट करके ब्रेंट रख लिया। Lavinia, agitatedly frightening against a growing conviction. But don't be stupid, Seth. His name would be Manan, and he would be only too proud of it. ना इस तरह करो, क्योंकि अगर वो मैनन होता तो उसे अपने इस नाम के ऊपर फख्र होता। Seth, he would have a good reason not to use the name of Manan when he came calling here, wouldn't he? If your pa ever guessed, अगर वो मेनन नाम यूज करता तो वो यहाँ पे कैसे आता, और तुम्हारे बाप को पता चल जाता, वो गेस कर लेता कि 36 years old मैनन है तो इसका लाजमी कोई उसके भाई से रिलेशन हो सकता है। Lavinia breaking out violently. No, it can't be. God wouldn't let it. It would be so horrible. On the top of, I won't think of it. Do you hear? Why did you have to tell me? Seth, calmly. There now. Don't take on Vinny. No need getting riled at me. He waits and goes on insistently. All I'm driving at is that it's darned funny. His looks and his name, and you would ought for your pa's sake to make certain. तुम्हें पता चलाना पड़ेगा कि ये कौन है। How can make? How can I make certain? Said, catch him off guard sometime and put it up to him strong, as if you knowed it, and see if maybe he don't give himself away. कि अंधेरे में तीर चलाओ, उसको कहो कि तुम्हें सब पता है, तो maybe वो खुद ही बता दे। He starts to go, looks down the drive at left. Looks like him coming up the drive now, Vinny. There's something about his walk that calls back to David Manon, too. और लगता है वही आ रहा है, तो उसकी चाल को देख के भी लगता है कि डेविड मैनन चल रहा है। If I didn't know it was him, I would think it was David's ghost coming home. तो अगर मैं इसको ना जानता होता तो मुझे बिल्कुल ही तुम्हारे चाचे का भूत लगता। He turns away abruptly. Well, calculate I'd better get back to work. He walks around the left corner of the house, a pause, and Captain Adam Brent enters from the drive left front. He starts on seeing Lavinia, but immediately puts on his most polite winning air. One is struck at a glance by the peculiar quality of his face in repose, as of being a lifelike mask rather than a living flesh. Even he has a mask on it, as if he is hiding something, or much of the things. He has a broad, low forehead framed by a coal-black straight hair, which he wears noticeably long, pushed back carelessly from his forehead as a poet's might be. He's a big aquiline nose, bushy eyebrows, swarthy complexion, hazel eyes. His wide mouth is sensual and moody, a mouth that can be strong and weak by turns. He wears a mustache, but his heavy cleft chin is clean shaven. In figure, he is tall, broad shouldered, and powerful. He gives the impression of being always on the offensive or defensive, always fighting life. He is dressed with an almost foppish extravagance, with touches of studied carelessness, as if a romantic Byronic appearance were the ideal in mind. There's a little of the obvious ship captain about him, except his big, strong hands and his deep voice. So this was his character. कि उसके चेहरे पे मास्क था. He was a strong built person. और इसके अंदर एक शिप कैप्टन की लुक कम नजर आती है सिवाय उसकी वॉइस के और उसके हाथों के. और उसको देख के लगता है कि जैसे कोई बहुत ज्यादा आइडियलिस्टिक काइंड ऑफ और एक बड़ा ब्यो काइंड ऑफ पर्सन है जो कि बड़ा गैलेंट है. और मस्टैश है उसकी वैसे क्लीन शेव है, माउथ उसका वाइड है, सेंसुअल है, मूडी है. एंड ही सीम्स टू बी ऑलवेज फाइटिंग द लाइफ, यानी हमेशा या ऑफेंसिव है या डिफेंसिव है, इसके अलावा कोई मूड नहीं है. Brand, bowing with an exaggerated politeness. Good afternoon. Coming and taking her hand, which she forces herself to hold out to him. Hope you don't mind my walking in you without ceremony. Your mother told me. कि प्रॉपर परमिशन के बगैर मैं आया तो तुम्हें बुरा तो नहीं लगा? तुम्हारी माँ ने मुझे बताया. I know she had to go out for a while and she said I was to keep you company until she returned. तो जब तक वो नहीं आती मैं तुम्हें कंपनी तो यहाँ पे दूंगी. Gallantly. Well, I'm in a good luck then. I hope she doesn't hurry back to stand watches over. I haven't had a chance to be alone with you since that night we went talking in the moonlight. Do you remember? He has kept her hand and he drops his voice to a lower-like tone. Lavinia cannot repress a start agitatedly, snatching her hand from his and turning away from him. तो उसे याद दिलाता कि एक चांद रात को इन्होंने वॉक की थी. कह रहे कि उस रात के बाद से हमें मौका नहीं मिला, तो आज मौका मिला तो तुम्हारी माँ अल्लाह करे अभी तक ना आए. Lavinia, regaining command of herself slowly. What do you think of the news of Lee's surrendering, Captain? We expect my father home very soon? As something in her tone, he stares at her suspiciously, but she is looking straight before her. Why don't you sit down? क्या ख्याल है, ली सरेंडर कर देगा? मेरा बाप कब तक घर आ जाएगा? और वो उसको अपने एक्सप्रेशन नहीं दिखाती, ना उसके एक्सप्रेशन देखती. Brent, thank you. He sits on the bench at the right. He has become wary now, feeling something strange in her attitude but not able to make her out casually. Yes, you must be very happy at the prospect of seeing your father again. Your mother has told me how close you've been always to him. कि कितना तुम उसके करीब रही हो. Lavinia, did she? I love father better than anyone in the world. There's nothing I wouldn't do to protect him from hurt. ये बड़ी इंटेंसिटी से कहती है कि मैं उसकी बड़ी केयर करूंगी और मैं कुछ भी नहीं होने दूंगी उसे किसी बंदे के थ्रू. तो ये बेसिकली उसे वार्निंग भी दे रही है, उसे बता भी रही है. Watching her carefully, keeping his casual tone. You care for more him than for your mother. तो तुम लगता है अपने बाप की ज्यादा केयर करती है. Yes. Well, I suppose that's the usual way of it. A daughter feels closer to a father and son to his mother. But I should think you ought to be a born exception to that rule. लेकिन तुम्हें इससे डिफरेंट होना चाहिए था. Why? You're so like your mother in some ways. Your face is the dead image of hers. And look at your hair. You won't meet hair like yours. And hers again in a month of Sundays. I only know of one woman who had it. You will think it's strange when I tell you. It was my mother. अब यहां ये इसका इडिपस कॉम्प्लेक्स है कि ये इसकी जो माँ के बाल थे वो मिलते हैं क्रिस्टीन से, तो ये क्रिस्टीन के साथ लव अफेयर में है. क्रिस्टीन के बाल मिलते हैं लेविनिया से, तो लेविनिया के साथ भी इसकी थोड़ी बहुत मोहब्बत या अनकॉन्शियस एफिलिएशन है या एपरेंट दिखावा, या कम से कम इसको थोड़ा सा पसंद जरूर करता है. सो दिस इज ऑल इडिपस कॉम्प्लेक्स. With a start, Brand, dropping his voice to reverent hush tone. Yes, she had beautiful hair like your mother's, that hung down to her knees in big, deep, sad eyes that were blue as the Caribbean Sea. Lavinia harshly. What do looks mount to? I'm not a bit like her. Everybody knows I take after father. हालांकि वो नहीं है ऐसी, बाप बाप से रिजेंबल नहीं करती, लेकिन वो जानबूझ के ऐसा बोल रही है. Brent, brought back with a shock, astonished at her tone. But you're not angry with me for saying that, are you? Then, filled with uneasiness and resolving he must establish himself on the intimate footing with her again, and engaging bluntness. You're puzzling today, Miss Lavinia. You'll excuse me if I come out with it bluntly. I've lived most of my life at sea in the camps, and I'm used to straight speaking. What are you holding against me? If I've done anything to offend you, I swear it wasn't meant. She's silent, staring before her with hard eyes, rigid, upright. He appraises her with a calculating looks and then goes on. I would have a bad feeling coming between us for the word. I may only be flattering myself, but I thought you liked me. Have you forgotten the night walking along the shore? कि मैं तुम्हारे एटीट्यूड से नोटिस कर रहा हूं कि तुम बदली बदली हो, तो मुझे सीधी सीधी बताओ कि तुम्हें हुआ क्या, क्यों इतना चेंज हुई हो. Lavinia in a cold hard voice. I haven't forgotten. Did mother tell you you could kiss me? अपने वालों ही. अच्छा. What do you mean? But he at once attributes to the question of her knave laughingly. Oh, I see. But come on, Lavinia. You can't mean, can you? I should have asked her permission. क्या अगर मैंने करना होता तो मैं उससे परमिशन लेता. Shouldn't you? तो क्या तुम्हें उससे परमिशन लेनी नहीं चाहिए? So what does she actually mean is कि असल तुम्हारा अफेयर उसके साथ है, तो मेरे साथ ऐसा रिलेशन बनाने से पहले तुम्हें उससे परमिशन लेनी चाहिए. Again uneasy, trying to joke it off. Well, I wasn't brought up that strictly and should or shouldn't or at any rate. I didn't, and it wasn't the less sweet for that. Then at something in her face hurriedly goes off another track. I'm afraid I gapped too much that night. Maybe I bored you with my talk of clipper ships and my love for them. क्या मैंने तुम्हें उस दिन अपने शिप्स के बारे में बात करके बोर तो नहीं कर दिया? क्यों इतना बदली हुई हो? Lavinia dryly, tall, white clippers you call them. You said they were beautiful, pale women to you. You said you loved them more than we would ever love a woman. Is that true, Captain? कि तुम्हें तुम्हारे शिप्स किसी भी औरत से ज्यादा प्यारे हैं. Brent, but I meant before I met you. तुम्हें मिलने से पहले. तुम्हें मिलने के बाद सबसे ज्यादा प्यारी तुम हो. Then thinking he was at last hit on the cause of her changed attitude towards him with a laugh. So that's what you're holding against me, is it? Well, I might have guessed. Women are jealous of ships. They always suspect the sea. They know there are uh, three of a kind when it comes to a man. Yes, I might have seen you didn't appear much taken by my sea gaming at night. I suppose clippers are too old a story to tell the daughter of a shipbuilder, but unless I am much mistaken, you were interested when I told you of the island and the South Seas where I was shipwrecked my first voyage at sea. So basically वो अभी बातें कर रहे अपने समुद्र की सफर की कि शायद मैं तुम्हें बोर कर दिया, तुम्हारा बाप खुद जहाज बनाता है और मैं तुम्हें जहाजों की बातें बता रहा था, तुम्हें तो ऑलरेडी पता होंगी ये सारी बातें. In a dry tone, I remember your admiration for naked native women. You said they had found the secret of happiness because they never heard that love can be a sin. कि तुम्हें वो ख्वातीन पसंद है और उनके पास खुश रहने का सीक्रेट ये था कि उनको ये पता था कि इस तरह के रिलेशंस रखना गुनाह नहीं होता. So they had plenty of relations. Brent, so you remember that, do you? They live in the near garden of the paradise before sin was discovered, as you'll find on this earth. Unless you've seen it, that you can't picture the green beauty of their land and sat in the blue of sea. The clouds like down on the mountain top, the sun drowsing in your blood, and always the surf in the barrier reef singing a croon in your ears like a lullaby. The blessed isles, I would call them, you can't forget they're all men's dirty dreams of greed and power. अब ये जो बार बार समुद्र की बात आ रही है, सी की बात आ रही है, ये सी जो है ये समुद्र को भी रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है और ये सिंबॉलिक भी है। सिंबॉलिक है ये इन इसकी लस्ट का, ब्रांड की, इसकी एम्बिशन का, इसके ड्रीम्स का। फिर ये स्केप का भी एक सिंबल है, जहां पे क्रिस्टीन जाना चाहती है इसके साथ। आगे ये स्केप का सिंबल बनेगा जहां पे एजरा क्रिस्टीन के साथ जाना चाहता है ताकि वो अपने रिलेशन को बहाल कर सके उसके साथ। तो ये जो आइलैंड्स है, ये सी है, ये ट्रेवल है, ये सारे का सारा escapism पे मबनी है। So I guess it is enough for today. Now you can ask if you have any questions.